When this passionate new medicine is placed in the house of spouses, what exactly will happen? Hello everyone, today we are recording this. Yes, Mars in the House of Spouses. Every year, I usually publish 1 or 2 Zi Wei strategy guides with Times Publishing. Around mid-October, I released Zi Wei Strategy Guide 4. If your financial luck isn't smooth, how can life go smoothly? I think many of my online followers might feel, well, I've listened to the teacher, and in the past 2 years, I haven't lost money, so maybe making money isn't that important. But I want to know what my fortune will be like next year. So I want to tell everyone that this year we publish this 2022 annual trend forecast. In this book, we provide a detailed explanation of the combinations for each main star for next year. You might be the Sun or Tianliang, or have both the Sun and Tianliang in the same palace. We outline what your overall fortune will look like next year. Actually, every year we hold a large-scale trend forecast seminar. Although we do charge for it, all the proceeds are fully donated to a chosen organization. Basically, whatever amount I collect, I donate the same amount. As for the venue and staff expenses, I cover those out of my own pocket. Then, if the amount raised from the seminar doesn't reach our chosen donation target, I also make up the shortfall myself, or sometimes many enthusiastic friends help out. You might say, oh, teacher, it's okay, I'll donate an extra 2,000 or 3,000 myself. I am truly, truly grateful to everyone. Especially last year, because of the pandemic, we couldn't hold the seminar in person, so we switched everything to online. Many friends said, teacher, it's no problem. Even though it wasn't held in person. Oh, the price is the same, whether it's in person or online, but you don't need to refund me, you don't have to return the money. For the rest, let's just consider it a donation. I really, really appreciate everyone, because this seminar is getting bigger and bigger with more and more participants. This year, we expect to hold it around March at the International Convention Center. For detailed information, please follow our channel. As with previous seminars, we will arrange for our society's professional instructors, myself included, to lead the sessions. My personally trained students will also be there to help each participant with personalized chart analysis and destiny readings. However, since our event is getting bigger and bigger, it's really difficult to do a personal reading for everyone on site. So we've organized all the information and compiled it into this book. If you're interested, you can visit our official website, and it should also be available on Shopee. You're welcome to join my annual Charity Trend Seminar. Last year, we donated to Mennonite Hospital. During the 2 years of the pandemic, many people paid attention to medical institutions. But in reality, the fire departments have been under tremendous pressure, and very few people pay attention to them. Here, I'd like to first thank all the firefighters for their protection and support. Now, as we officially enter the period when Mars is in the spouse palace, let's first talk about what Mars means. Mars, of course, is one of the 4 malefic stars. It's also one of the 4 major stars. So let's talk about the 4 major stars. Basically, why are they called malefic stars? Many people see the word malefic and immediately think it's something bad. But actually, the 4 malefic stars represent our own deep emotions, not just a certain personality trait. As people grow up due to family upbringing and many other factors, you develop a rational side. But the malefic stars represent the purely emotional side. You could even say it's our animalistic nature, and that would fit here. So, what does Mars represent in this context? It stands for impulsiveness and passion, a burning fire. Many people can't really tell the difference between Mars and the Sun, because sometimes people also describe the Sun as impulsive. But the Sun is more about persistence. This is just how I want to do things. Mars, on the other hand, is that feeling of intense desire and passion, like, this is what I love. In real-life situations, these 2 signs can sometimes look similar. You might think they're the same, but actually they're not quite the same. The way they show up might look similar, but they're actually different. The Sun, generally speaking, this so-called persistence of his comes from a sense of, hey, I've thought this through, I've evaluated it, and I just want to do it this way. This is what I want. But Mars is simply a very pure kind of emotion, and that pure emotion can sometimes become irrational. Being irrational means being in a state that's out of control. So what does this kind of situation look like when it's placed in the spouse palace? Why are these inauspicious stars called inauspicious stars? It's because people don't exist in isolation. You live within a social group. And when you live in a social group, there have to be certain norms and boundaries and interactions between people. And certain boundaries must be maintained. When others are being rational, but you're still acting impulsively, then people will see that as a bad thing. That's why these stars are considered inauspicious. But the problem is, many times people actually need these impulses, need these emotional aspects. Teacher, I myself, when I was young, I was a member of a rescue team. I was a diver. So in the event of an air crash, we might go down to help recover the bodies of the deceased or assist victims. I know very well that these rescue personnel, when they rush in at the very first moment, in that instant, they are acting irrationally. If they were rational, how would they dare to rush in? If he were rational, he would first think of his wife and children, and after thinking about going into the fire or jumping into the water, would he be able to come out unscathed? The salary and compensation he receives are definitely not enough to justify him doing these things. So in that moment, what do these people rely on? They rely on impulse, on passion. It's not a rational decision, because if they were rational, they wouldn't do this kind of thing. So, do you think society needs people like this? Of course they're needed. Sometimes people have to do things that are different from everyone else. You absolutely need to have this kind of killer instinct. You need these emotions and feelings to drive you. Only then can you do these things. That's one way to look at it. So from this perspective, having a Shah star isn't necessarily a bad thing. When we interpret the Shah star objectively like this, let's look back. When this passionate new force is placed in the spouse palace, which is an area that requires emotional connection. So when it's placed in the palace position, what exactly will the situation be? If we don't discuss the main star for now and just talk about this Mars being placed in the spouse palace, what we're saying is that emotionally, this person will be passionate. But sometimes that fiery passion isn't necessarily a good thing. It's like what we often say, if you're handsome, everyone loves you. If you're unattractive, it's harassment. If I suddenly act very passionate toward a girl, she might be scared to death. But if I were Takeshi Kaneshiro and acted passionately toward anyone, people would think, wow, how romantic. It all depends on whether you're doing it under the right conditions and in the right situation. So, when this kind of new energy appears in the spouse palace, it means that I am extremely passionate about relationships. When love comes, I can immediately get into the mood. And once it starts, it's unstoppable, like a sudden spark igniting a raging fire. The problem is that this also makes it easy for people to lose rational judgment in relationships. For example, this person is clearly a jerk, but when you see him, you still love him deeply. Isn't that losing your rational judgment? Many clients come to ask this question, teacher, why do I always end up with the wrong people? Well, that's strange, but it's something we often talk about. Whether that person is a jerk or not, the real issue is still your own problem at that time. If you want your relationship to be more than just about passion, more than just a spark, then you have to understand that relationships require effort and are meant to last. That means you need to approach them with rational thinking. But if you think it doesn't matter, and you just want your relationship to be beautiful and romantic like fireworks, whoosh, bang, and that's enough for you, then that's fine. That's just how it is. So, when Mars is in the house of marriage, its advantage is, when you're with someone like this, during the dating phase, it will definitely be the most romantic situation. But the downside is that among these four malefic stars, this is an extremely emotional star. When the main star isn't right, it's also very easy for things to go wrong. Maybe the passion goes overboard. This excessive passion could mean, for example, that even though someone clearly doesn't like you, you keep pursuing them, or you go around setting fires everywhere, making people feel you're overly passionate. But then you end up not wanting them after all, which leads to these kinds of situations. So we have to look back and see what their main star actually is. Now, if your palace is empty and only has Mars, then we need to look at the situation of the opposing star. Okay, so think about it. In this kind of view on relationships, actually, if they encounter, for example, the Zi Wei system of main stars, not only are they passionate, but they also hope to gain a sense of nobility in the relationship. If we look at the Tianji star, the responsibility might manifest as a stronger desire to control in the relationship. And if you don't control them much, that fiery side will come out. If, for example, if it's Po, then it might be more romantic and also hopes that its relationship is abundant and radiant. This means that if you don't let it shine, it might go find someone who does let it shine. If it's Jifu, it will take a more pragmatic approach to its relationship. As for the passionate, destructive power of Mars, it will know better how to use it, being passionate when it's appropriate and not being passionate when it's not. He will quickly put out the fire. If it's Qianxiang, then he will become someone who, for the situation he likes at that moment, will break all his own rules. For example, he might usually tell you that he likes a certain thing. A rich man being bald and having a big belly doesn't matter to him. But then he happens to meet someone who is really handsome but has no money, and that's fine for him too. He can break his own patterns for his passion. If Zi Wei and Tan Lang are put together, then this Mars will ignite his desires. And when it comes to emotions, he is someone who really pursues romance. As for romance, if it's the dance music series, basically, he has several characteristics in relationships. He's very willing to spend money, to invest in, and honor his feelings. In terms of relationships, he's considered generous to his partner. Of course, you have to see what kind of new medicine it corresponds to. If it's, what about the combination with Tianji? Okay, what about the combination with Tianji? All right, with Mars added in, actually, when it comes to emotions, he will have a harder time because he tends to overthink things. He doesn't know whether he should be so impulsive. He wants to act this way, but then again, it seems like he can't really do that. This often makes him feel he will feel very troubled and restless emotionally. Now, if it's a combination with the sun star, dating someone like this is actually quite nice. You'll feel very well taken care of. However, on the flip side, being cared for like this also means that you have to really listen to what they say. Otherwise, their fiery temper will show and they'll become unhappy. Now, if it's the kind of star like Kaiyin or Tiantong, these types of stars are usually more passive emotionally. But what happens when you add a Mars star to the mix? They'll become a bit more proactive emotionally and also a bit more enthusiastic. If your boyfriend has this combination, he already has a lot of romantic prospects, and adding Mars to the mix can be a bit risky. If it's a star like Jumen, then at this point, you need to look at your spouse palace with Jumen. But if the sun star in your astrological chart happens to be situated in the yin, mao, chen, or wu positions, then he is regarded as a truly great lover, someone who is knowledgeable, eloquent, and deeply passionate. However, if his sun star is in Shen, Yu, Shu, Hai, Zi, or Chou positions, then you might need to pay more attention to his fragile heart. He often feels empty, lonely, and cold inside, yet he still longs for warmth. If you can't ignite his passion, he might go look for someone else to light that fire for him. You need to be aware of this, even though he won't say it out loud. Actually, having Mars in the relationship or spouse sector is pretty good. Being with someone like this usually means a very romantic relationship. However, people who are romantic and emotional often have trouble handling relationship issues rationally. Everything has its pros and cons. If someone around you has Mars in their relationship sector or even in their ascendant, since the ascendant governs all 12 houses, how should you treat someone with Mars in their relationship sector or ascendant? You need to always make them feel, no matter whether his passion for you is reciprocated or you need to treat him passionately, that way you can keep that fire burning. Observe and see what it is that he wants. If you yourself have this placement, then you should consider that maybe in relationships. Sometimes it's not just about emotions. If you want something long-lasting, then you need to have a rational component, not just rely on feelings alone. Thank you all, and remember to buy the book. When we announce it, remember to join our music lecture. Thank you.